and we are privileged to have an expert who has led the several Kenyan teams representing the country in external world and international fields, just to ensure that they comply on matters substance use. And Dr. Ngundo is going to tell us our role in promoting clean sports in Kenya. Daktari, karibu.
Because he knows me and he knows that I'm not Dr. Gundo. My name is Kennedy. I'm from the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. I don't know if I can have my pointer. Yes, Dr. Gundo is with us here, and he'll have an opportunity to speak to us. But I'm just doing what in the Bible they say is the ministry of John the Baptist, preparing the way. That's good, isn't it? So for me, I'm a sports scientist, and in this presentation, I'll try as much as possible to avoid issues football. I'll try to stick with the rest of us that are not in that area. ADAC is a parastatal in the Ministry of Sports, and our work is to catch dopers, simply put. So what is doping? Because that is something that people always ask. And I don't want to give the definition maybe that Dr. Gundo will do or present. But my simple definition for doping is basically the use of performance enhancing substances. And I don't know what comes to your mind when you think of that. But a simple layman discussion or thinking of doping becomes as the use of performance enhancing substances. I want us to look at, I don't know, you can just go to the next. There's a saying here from the Olympics. This is the former president of the International Olympic Committee, says that doping is the biggest threat to sport after terrorism. That if there is anything that can stop reggae of sport, apart from terrorism, it's doping. Do you agree or you don't agree? You agree, isn't it? I want us to look at some statistics. If you can go next. I want us to look at some of these substances. Do you know them? That one you know, eh? The next one? That one there? You know it, isn't it? The beauty is you can't ask me what it is, but you guys, if you know it, I'm okay. My presentation is going on very well. Next. That one, you know it? You see, I told you I'm a sports scientist. So those terms, if you know them, we are good. Next. That is triamcinolone. Mnaijua hiyo? We continue. Now that one, you can even read it yourselves. You are the people who went to study these things, isn't it? Mnaijua? Next. Furosemide? You know it? Okay. Speed up. Methylphentamine? Is this something that is found within your circles? Next. Stanozol? Hata hiyo mko nayo? Okay. Si sana. Okay. Next. Prednisolone? Mainstay. Good. Next. Hiyo mnaijua pia? Okay. I don't know it, but Dr. Gundo knows it, and you people also know it. Next. Trenbolone. Si sana. Hiyo nitawaambia wenye walitengeneza hiyo waangalie that slide. Next. 19-norandrosterone. Si sana. Hiyo najua si sana kwenyu. Because that one comes from use of supplements. Supplements is where we find much of that. Next. Salbutamol. Hiyo mnaijua? Okay. We also know it in anti-doping. Letrozole. Hata hiyo mnaijua? Next. EPO. You know it? You've dispensed it? Good. Next. Think imemalizika, finya the next slide. Now, why do we know all these substances and why are they important to us? For the last 2 years in Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, we conducted tests among the athletes, wachezaji. When I say athletes, I mean all the other people in sports. Be it football, athletics, whichever, we tested them. And we found out that 146 of Kenyans, mimi kama wewe, mchezaji, 146, they tested positive of performance enhancing substances. And 87.6% of those were from the discipline of athletics. And if you look at that globally in athletics, ile watu wa kukimbia, Kenya accounted 46 or 40% of all global cases of doping. Where do you think we finished? Position what? Number 3. The first one being India, of course, India, because of the things you have said, you know, they also know. So you know, they know. They know better than us, isn't it? So they were number 1. Number 2 was Russia. Of course, Russia. Russia has to be there, isn't it? And then number 3 was ours truly, Kenya. And representing Africa. That is not a good position for us to be in. And that is why we are making effort to reach to you guys so that we see what you know and what we know, whether we can find a working solution. Can we go to the next slide? When you look at this graph, these are the most prevalent doping drugs or doping substances we have found in those 146. I'm sorry if the graphs are not so nice, but at the top there, we have EPO and Sera with 15 people who used it. We have 11% triamtizidine. Simuliza mnajua hiyo triamtizidine. We had 11 athletes who used it, and we had also triamcinolone. So there are 11 athletes whom we sanctioned because of using triamcinolone. The question is, who gave it to them? Hello? So if you go to the next slide, there's something I want to show you. I don't know. Yes. If you are the one who gave, then I want to read for you the section 42 of the Anti-Doping Act. And this is what it says. That a medical practitioner, a pharmacist, a pharmtech, simko katika hiyo maeneo, veterinary surgeon, all those people, if they prescribe or dispense prohibited substance or method to an athlete with the intention of doping, they are committing an offense. Mi nasoma sasa, watu lawyers, sasa niko hapa. Nyinyi si lawyers, kwa hivyo hii nikisoma unasikiza. The other one who unlawfully administers prohibited substance or method to an athlete. Some of those are injectables, some of those you dispense. No? I know you want to ask about the unlawful and the lawful, yeah? Number 2 or is number 3. Acquires, stocks, or is found in unlawful possession of prohibited substances. Of course, that is definitely what you do, eh? Aids, abets, or in any way encourages unlawful use of prohibited substance in sport. That is the most important one for us. Because sometimes what you do is part of your lawful work. Is that true? Dispensing, stocking, that's what you do. But number 4, we have people who are aiding, abetting, or in any way encouraging unlawful use of prohibited substances. What are we to tell you this day? Is to tell you that there are substances in your stock that are not supposed to be given to athletes. You didn't know, now you know. True? So therefore now that number 4 becomes critical to you. Because you will find athletes who will come to you, they are sick, and there are some procedures, and Dr. will be able to guide us now. What do you do as a pharmtech when you see an athlete who needs triamcinolone, who needs TMZ, who needs all those drugs. What do you do? And you don't want them to be part of the statistics of putting us to number 3. That is why Daktari is here. Take me to the next, because what now the Act provides. If, for example, we give you the guidance today and you still say, huyu jamaa alisema anataka kwenda kushinda marathon, mimi nataka tu kumsaidia. If you do that, what we are asking from you is that you'll get 3 million as a fine, or you get 3 years imprisonment, and more often our legal team will be asking for both. The 3 million because government needs money, and also for you to go to jail for the offenses that I've already mentioned in section 42. So why am I saying this? Because we have had a number of pharmacy that have been closed in Iten and Kapsabet. Some of those guys or your colleagues, they are also having cases in courts because of this. And basically is that aspect of aiding and abetting athletes to use prohibited substances. Can we move to the next? So what are we asking you to do? Whenever you have an athlete or a patient, and I know you do ask this, when they say they are athletes, when they say wanacheza, that should make you something trigger in your mind. I'm having a special population. This is just like the way you always ask women, are you pregnant? Even if you can see that they are as flat as, but you go ahead and ask, isn't it? So the same thing when you're handling with athletes, ensure that you do a comprehensive diagnosis. Number 2, the other thing we're asking of you is, take your time and inquire, what do you do for a living? You know, most people will never tell you what they do when you start asking for the history. But please, if you're going to move ourselves from position 4, 3 to some other positions that is better, and not 1 and 2, then we need you people to help us. So that when the athletes come to you, now you know in your mind there are prohibited substances. Then what do you do? And then number 2 or number 3, evaluate the options. Most of those prohibited substances that are in the market, they are always alternatives. Here I've had a presentation of people who are handling pain. That's a beautiful, because I never heard of tramadol. Tramadol is on the prohibited list. So if an athlete takes tramadol, definitely we will have to sanction them. But there were options, alternative options. And that is what we are asking you guys. We are not asking you don't treat the athletes. What we are asking is look for alternatives when it comes to athletes. I don't know whether that goes, I don't know. Let me not go there, because sometimes I don't know whether the alternative could be cheaper or whichever way. But as Kenyans or as patriots, when it comes to athletes, if you check and find out that that substance or that drug is prohibited, what do? Go for an alternative. Next, proper documentation. It is possible that most of the 146 athletes who were tested positive and they were sanctioned, there is a likelihood that they might have gotten an easier sanction had they come to us with proper documentation showing that indeed they were sick. But because maybe nobody documented their engagement with you, so when we ask them, how did this substance, how did triamcinolone, how did it find itself in your system? They have no history they can give us. And with that, we end up getting them 2 years sanction. Because they were sick, yes. Did they show us in there? It was you, the person who is attending to them, and the patient. There was no any documentation. So please, proper documentation becomes important in the issues of anti-doping. Because the first thing we'll always try to find out is, where did this substance come from? How did it get into this athlete's body? So documentation is critical. And finally, there is some help, and it's at this moment that I want Dr. Gundo to come on board here. Because all those medications you said you interact with, we also interact with them. And when an athlete tests positive of any of those, it will be sanctioned. only if, come on, Daktari, because that is given by the World Anti-Doping Agency, the global body that manages doping, that it says if an athlete needs medication for a legitimate medical condition and there is no alternative, then before they take that medication, they have to look for therapeutic use exemption. And this is where now Daktari, I have done the intro of preparing Daktari. Daktari, please kindly guide us on the prohibited substances. Should these good people do when they have athletes who need these medications and yet they need to in sports and represent the country? Karibu Daktari.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. How do you move? Okay. Thank you, Ken. Ken has just said he was preparing the way, but he did not qualify. He was preparing that to go where? I don't know whether he was preparing the way for me, a den of lions. I'm used to treating, initially actually treating athletes and sportsmen. Later, competition, I treat children more nowadays. So I'm not used to standing in front of pharmaceutical experts like you. So I feel like thrown me into a den of lions. But I have a disclaimer actually before I continue. I Kenya Defense Forces, but I also am one of committee members at ADAC, and as I stand here, I'm representing ADAC, and the views that I give here are not those of the Kenya Defense Forces. I wonder whether there are some of my colleagues from the Kenya Defense Forces within. Ah, wonderful. I can see one there. Very happy. Thank you. But you are quite outnumbered. You should have been a little bit more. The second disclaimer is that I will display some images of medications just for us to go through the prohibited substances, common medications that we use in Kenya. And the images that are displayed do not have any, I don't have anything against the brands that I display, especially for some that are prohibited. It is for the ingredients that I would want to show. So I would have wanted to give that disclaimer. And thirdly, another disclaimer is that some of you may see me tearing. I have allergies to lights and I've been on the screen. It's not because I am mourning or having tears of joy or something like that. I also want to note that I have been looking at the program that you have for this conference, and I've seen the medications that are displayed there. They are all sports friendly. I've not seen any which is prohibited in the program actually. So I was wondering, Secretary General, was it a precondition for those who are sponsoring that they are sports friendly? I think Ken displayed some penalties and some offenses there, but actually why we are here is not to scare you. We are here to inform you that you are important stakeholders, you're important partners in the war against the medications, and we shall probably see as we finalize on that. So I will try to quickly, because I know I stand between you and the lunch, but unfortunately I don't know how to move quick. If I move quick, I get a little confused, but I will try. I don't know where we are in the screen now. I want the first slide. Are we on the first slide? Next. Unfortunately, I can't see that side. Next. Oh yeah, there. The first thing I want to inform you is that the war against doping is internationally regulated and very well coordinated and controlled. And the body that controls that internationally is known as the World Anti-Doping Agency. And it is tasked with developing and harmonizing, coordinating anti-doping. And it monitors and it polices us as we do that. It has something which is known as the anti-doping code, which is like the Bible of anti-doping activities. And that anti-doping code has standards. Ken, I think there are how many standards? 11? 8. Okay. Standards on almost everything anti-doping, testing, investigations, how you do laboratory testings. There are standards on one of the main standards that I'm going to now to show you is known as the prohibited list. Actually, that is the main standard. Everything else is because there is a prohibited list. But also there is a standard on therapeutic use exemption. And I want to talk to you, that is the key. That's why I'm here actually, to talk to you about assisting athletes in something we call therapeutic use exemption. Next slide. So locally, the body that represents WADA locally and coordinates the anti-doping activities is the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. Next. Let me use mine now. So we say that the prohibited list, the fact that there are prohibited substances in sports, that is why we have anti-doping activities. And I wanted us to quickly go through the substances that are prohibited. So every year, World Anti-Doping Agency publishes what is known as the prohibited list. So there is one for this year that started in January, and they classify substances, methods into classifications, as you can see. But in the list, there are details of substances. It is not a skeleton as it is. If you go to the list, they have listed so many in each of those, but they classify them in this manner. Non-approved substances, those are substances that are not registered for clinical use. Maybe they are undergoing preclinical trials, maybe they are registered for veterinary use. Anabolic agents are medications that are used to increase muscle mass, strength, and the speed of recovery, especially for athletes. Peptide hormones, EPO. How many of us know EPO, erythropoietin? It falls under peptide hormones. Beta-2 agonists, we know them, I am sure. Hormone and metabolic modulators. I think we'll go through examples of this as we look at. I told you I'll show you some images of some of these. So we'll go into this later, but I just wanted to show you the skeleton of how World Anti-Doping Agency organizes the list of the prohibited list. Diuretics and masking agents. Diuretics and masking agents are prohibited because they are used by athletes to conceal prohibited medications. Because when you take diuretics, you urinate more and you urinate the substance. That's why they are known as masking agents. Prohibited methods, there are prohibited methods, like transfusions are prohibited. That's manipulating your oxygen carrying capacity is prohibited. IV fluids up to a certain amounts outside a hospital setting are prohibited, because also you can mask medications that you have doped through infusing yourself with fluids. You expand your plasma volume and then you mask your medications. Also gene doping. There was a presenter on AI. Also gene doping is something which is emerging lately. Next, please. I hope we are together. We are on stimulants. Stimulants are also, most of them are prohibited. We shall see some of the common medications that fall under that later. narcotics, cannabinoids, and the glucocorticoids. We'll see that as we present some of the examples. Next, please. And then beta blockers are also prohibited. And as you may have seen, World Anti-Doping Agency classifies these medications into those that are prohibited all the times. Anytime an athlete is not supposed to use those medications. There are some that are prohibited in competition. Only during competition an athlete can use outside the competition. And then there are some which are prohibited in sports. Like beta blockers are prohibited in particular sports, precision sports. You know, they stabilize that you are not shaking. So if you use some beta blockers and you are like shooting, archery, where it's precision, you have an advantage over your competitors. Next, please. What does World Anti-Doping Agency consider so that it adds these medications into that list that we have seen? The medication or substance or method must meet two of the following criteria. One of them is that it should have a potential to enhance or it actually enhances performance. Next, it poses actual or potential health risk to athletes, or it violates the spirit of sport. So a substance or whatever it is, method must meet two of those criteria. If it meets two of those criteria, it will go into the list. If it meets two of those criteria. Next, please. But now athletes are human beings and they get sick. And they may require medications that are in the prohibited list. And some of these medications that are in the prohibited list will enhance performance, and therefore the athlete will have an unfair advantage over others. And therefore, to balance fairness and also the need of the athlete to get treated, we have whatever we call therapeutic use exemption. So therapeutic use exemption next. This is how you define therapeutic use exemption. We abbreviate it as TUE. If a medication or method an athlete is required to use to treat an illness or condition is prohibited as per WADA, a TUE may be given to that athlete that authorizes the use of that substance or method while competing without invoking what is known as anti-doping rule violation or a sanction. So that is how we define a therapeutic use exemption. Next. And quickly, the process of applying for a TUE. I think that is where we would request you to partner with us, ADAC, in fighting anti-doping agencies. This is one of the areas where we call upon you. Because if you come across, as Ken said, an athlete who has been prescribed a medication, it's prohibited, then you need to advise them that there is a process. And if they really need that medication, there is no permitted alternatives. We will tell you how you can be able to access the list, and also how you can check whether your medication very quickly is prohibited. There is a way you can check very quickly whether a medication is prohibited. If I forget, please remind me. There is a way you can just online. You check very quickly. You just type and it tells you whether a medication is prohibited as per the current prohibited list. So the process starts with the athlete presenting themselves to a clinician, and then they are diagnosed with a medical condition. And then if they require medication which is prohibited, then they are supposed to apply for therapeutic use exemption. In Kenya, from anti-doping agency, if they are international athletes, they apply to international federations. But if they are national level athletes, they apply to us at anti-doping agency of Kenya. There is a TU administrator who receives them, those applications, and prepares them. and a committee is convened, which is known as Therapeutic Use Exemption Committee, which is composed of doctors. There is a pharmacist there is a sports administrator, and there is a retired athlete in that committee. Then the committee processes the application, and then through the TUE administrator, it informs the athlete whether it has been approved or not. So that is, in short, the process of applying for therapeutic use exemption. So if you see an athlete who requires to use a medication which is prohibited, kindly advise them on this process. You link them up back to their clinician and assist them. Both of you can assist that athlete to apply for a therapeutic use exemption. In Kenya, we are getting very low levels of athletes applying for therapeutic use exemption, yet most of the sanctions many of the sanctions are for medications that probably the athlete would have been given a TUE if they had applied. So we request a lot of help from you so that we can assist these athletes so that they don't get sanctioned for not knowing what they need to do. Next. But in the event of an emergency need for use of these prohibited substances, of course, there'll be no time to go through the process that we have described. So the athlete is permitted to use that medication immediately in that emergency setting and then apply later for a therapeutic use exemption. And we call that a retroactive therapeutic use exemption application, because you do not apply. Ideally, you are supposed to apply before you start using a prohibited medication. But if it's an emergency, of course, you use it, common sense, and then you apply later. Next. So I would want us to go quickly through what criteria the committee at ADAC uses to grant a TUE. And all the 4 conditions must be met. The first condition is that that athlete must have a diagnosed medical condition, which is supported by evidence. You don't just write an athlete as a medical condition without really showing why you have reached that diagnosis. The second one is that the medication that you want to give will not enhance performance, other than return that athlete to the level where they should be if they were not sick. Because you are prescribing because they are sick. So the aim should be to return that athlete to a normal functioning, not to enhance, not to over-treat them so that they perform better in sports. I hope we are together there. Then the third one is that there should not be other reasonable permitted alternative. You cannot prescribe a prohibited medication when there is readily a permitted alternative. It doesn't make sense. You are supposed to go to the alternative. So that is another condition. And then the other condition, the last condition, is that the need for the athlete to require this medication, which is prohibited, is not as a result of prior use of prohibited substance. You cannot use anabolic steroids and then you get hypertension later because of those anabolic steroids that you use, which were prohibited. And now your hypertension can only be treated by a certain medication, maybe a beta blocker, and you want us to allow you to use it when you are the one who brought it on yourself by using a prohibited. So those 4 conditions must be met, all of them must be met for us to grant a TUE when we sit at the TUE committee. Next. But as we said, there are some conditions which may necessitate an athlete to apply later after use of the medication, which is known as a retroactive application. So there are some conditions that the committee, the TUE committee, looks at to see whether they will grant this retroactive. That one that you apply in later when you have already used your medication, there are also conditions that you must meet for us to give you that retroactive TUE. And one of them is that it must be in an emergency or some urgent treatment that was needed. The next is that there should have been insufficient time or opportunity for you to apply normally. The other one is anti-doping ADAC rules. Sometimes they may not allow you to apply in advance because ADAC may prioritize some sports like athletics. You may find that most athletes would be required to apply in advance, but some sports like darts, which may not be so, the risk for doping is not very high. They may not want you to apply in advance. So that is another condition. Then the other one is I think I've combined number C and the D. The last one is if you have tested positive for substance that you used out of competition, but it is only prohibited in competition. You can use a substance which is prohibited in competition, but it is still in your system when you start to compete, when you go into competition. If you test positive for that one, you are allowed to apply for a retroactive TUE, because in that case, you'll say, this one I used out of competition, is only that it is showing during competition. And there are ways of establishing that. Next slide, please. I think for this one, I leave it. It's more important for the committee. And if we have time, we may come for the washout period. For next, for glucocorticoids, I think we may not have time. I want us to move quickly. Next, because of time, I want us to go quickly to the common medications, to display some common medications. We see some of which are prohibited or not. So we'll go through some common medications in Kenya so that we see which ones are prohibited or not. And that is the first one. From the list that we showed, although we showed a skeleton list, are those prohibited? Anybody? Volunteer? And one from who? Yes, prohibited? Prohibited, both of them. They are in which class? They are beta-2 agonists. Eh? So you are right, beta-2 agonists are prohibited. But there is a but. Eh? I want you to listen keenly because you're going to be dealing with these athletes when they come to you and you are dispensing medications. We can go to next so that you see the but. Most of there is something known as, and I am sure you know about route of administration. It's very important also in anti-doping, the route of administration. So there is conditional prohibition of beta-2 agonists depending on the route of administration and the dosage. So some beta-2 agonists are prohibited only if they exceed certain thresholds. And one of them is salbutamol. Salbutamol at therapeutic levels is not prohibited. If you are using less than 800 micrograms within 8 hours, or less than 1600 micrograms within 24 hours, is not prohibited. And those are the usual therapeutic dosages. But if you are using salbutamol in other routes, like IV, IM, nebulization, you know, nebulization is very high dose. Those are prohibited. So I want you to remember this very well because this is a very common medication in Kenya. You do not scare athletes when they come for you for salbutamol, Ventolin. You tell them that is prohibited because you saw beta-2 agonists are prohibited. Let us advise them well that if they are using them within the therapeutic level, it is not prohibited. But should they need to be nebulized, or should they get an acute exacerbation where they need to take very many puffs, you advise them that they need to apply for which application? A retroactive TUE. Because when they get an exacerbation, they must puff at that time. It's an emergency. And then they apply for a retroactive TUE. But one slide backwards. The other one you are seeing there is levosalbutamol. Levosalbutamol, let us be keen. Attention to details when we are dispensing to athletes. Levosalbutamol is prohibited at all times, at any dosage. So there is no threshold for levosalbutamol, but for salbutamol, there is a threshold. Just the same as terbutaline. If terbutaline is being given, it's prohibited at whatever dosages. Next. Are you seeing, can you see from behind what it is? That is Ritalin. Ritalin. Is it prohibited or not? Prohibited. It is a stimulant. So prohibited during competition or at all times? It is prohibited in competition only. It's a stimulant, so prohibited in competition. Do not scare athletes when they are using it. Some athletes may have ADHD and they may want to use it outside competition. But those athletes who have ADHD, we give them therapeutic use exemptions to continue using, even in competition. Next, please. There are many cough syrups. One of them is Actified, Benylin, Brozendex. But as I said, I have nothing against the brands. But do you think they would be prohibited in athletes? Somebody says yes. Why? They contain what? Codeine. We'll talk about codeine later. The main ones that most of these contain, which is prohibited as a stimulant, is ephedrine. Ephedrine, and some contain pseudoephedrine. Those are the ones that most of them contain. But Brozedex, I think, contains beta-2 agonist, isn't it? Salbutamol. So salbutamol, remember, it is prohibited in when it is systemically used. Okay. If you take it oral, it is prohibited, salbutamol. If you take it IM, IV, all those routes are prohibited. But if it is inhaled, you remember what we said about thresholds. So next, I think it is explaining that they contain stimulants, most of them. So this one is extremely important because some athletes have been sanctioned because of using cough syrups. I think it's important for you to remember that as we dispense. We take history, as Ken said, we find out if they're athletes, so that we don't inadvertently dope them. Next. Prednisolone and dexamethasone, prohibited or not? They belong to which class? Glucocorticoids. That one was very easy. So next. So S9 glucocorticoids. Next. Clenbuterol and nandrolone. Clenbuterol, nandrolone. Those who are keen, when Ken was presenting, you saw some of these there. Is one of the medications he displayed that some athletes have been sanctioned for. So they are actually prohibited. Next, both of them belong to anabolic steroids. But strangely, most of our sanctioned athletes in Kenya are from athletics and long distance endurance sports. So sometimes we are wondering why they are getting they testing positive for some of these medications, anabolic steroids. You know what anabolic steroids do? Growing muscles and all that. So we need to ask ourselves many questions, and we think probably issues of supplements. Some supplements get contaminated. They may not display that they have anabolic steroids, but they may contain this. So probably some of our athletes are getting inadvertently, doping inadvertently through supplements. And that's why we also need to talk to our athletes about supplements. Next. EPO, prohibited or not, erythropoietin? Increasing oxygen carrying capacity. But this one we understand, isn't it? because increase in oxygen carrying capacity for endurance as athletes, our athletes, mainly long distance athletes. This one we understand, but for those anabolic steroids, there are many question marks about why our athletes are getting caught for those. So this one as next is prohibited under peptide hormones. Next, please. What about Kenalog? Triamcinolone, prohibited as a glucocorticoid. But again, route of administration is very important. You can see this one is injectable. Glucocorticoids are prohibited through if they are given through certain routes. If they are inhaled, they are not prohibited. Okay. So if you see athletes who have been prescribed inhaled glucocorticoids, please do not tell them that they are prohibited. But if they are given systemically or through other routes, rectal and others, they are prohibited. So I think that's an important distinction. Avamis and Avamis, fluticasone, prohibited, not prohibited, again because of route of administration. It is intranasal. Although it is a glucocorticoid, it is intranasal, so not prohibited. These are some of the common medications. You agree with me that we stock in Kenya? Next is, what is the next one? Those who can see? Insulin. Is insulin prohibited or not? Insulin. What do you think? What will it do? Can insulin enhance performance? It definitely can, isn't it? It increases oxygen entry, glucose entry into cells, isn't it? And that is fuel for muscles, for myofibrils. So it will be prohibited. So any of our athletes who requires to use insulin will require a therapeutic use exemption. Next. So it is prohibited under hormones and metabolic modulators. Next, please. Oh, there. What about rhizine? Antihistamines, are they prohibited? Luckily, antihistamine, most of the antihistamines are not prohibited. And this is luckily because we would really be in trouble a lot because flus are so common. Athletes take a lot of these antihistamines. But there is a caveat. Some antihistamines have combinations with prohibited substances. So we have to be careful that they are not combined with the pseudoephedrine and those others which are prohibited. What about Montelukast? Leukotriene and it's known as leukotriene and anticeptor. What is Montelukast? Leukotriene anticeptor antagonist, isn't it? Prohibited or not? Why do many people feel it's prohibited? Actually, it's not. It's not prohibited. So luckily, most antihistamines, this leukotriene and this receptor antagonists are not prohibited, and these are common medications for flus and allergies. So it's good. Next, what about tramadol? Prohibited under narcotics. Next, prohibited as one of narcotic medications. Next, please. Ceprolene is there, which is ciprofloxacin drops. Is it prohibited? It's not prohibited. Amoxil, not prohibited. Brufen, not prohibited. Luckily, actually, most antibiotics are not prohibited. Have I come across an antibiotic which is prohibited? I can't remember. So most antibiotics are not prohibited. And most of the commonly used normal analgesics also are not prohibited. Paracetamol, NSAIDs are not prohibited. Those which are prohibited are narcotics. because of what potential for abuse, and also for masking severe pain and harm to athletes. One of the conditions for some of these substances to get into the list is if they are harming athletes, because when athletes take powerful and narcotics for pain, they may continue with sport when they are injured, and then they injure themselves more, so that can cause harm. Next, please. Are you seeing the first one? Penthrox is methoxyflurane, is one of the most potent inhaled analgesics. Luckily, it is not prohibited. So athletes who are injured, especially rugby, you can get fractures. They can be given quickly that before they get to the hospital. It's a new medication. I don't know how many of you have come across this inhaled methoxyflurane. It's new. It's relatively new. I don't think even in Kenya we have it, but it is coming. It should be coming because of its analgesic, immediate analgesic and value, especially in severe injuries, before athletes reach hospital to control the pain. Beclomine, it has beclomethasone. Route of administration. I'm very happy that you remember route of administration, not prohibited. Next. What about this one? Cigarettes. Are they prohibited? Do you think they should be prohibited, cigarettes? Do they meet 2 of the 3 criteria that you remember what we said? Enhancing performance, violating spirit of sport, and also the other one was what? What? Harm. Is it harming the athlete? It is harming the athlete. But is it enhancing performance? Probably not, isn't it? Is it violating the spirit of sport? Ken will explain to us later. I'll give him a chance to explain to us what spirit of sport is. But integrity and those things. So there are some question marks. But it is not prohibited at the moment. It is in a program which is known as monitoring program by World Anti-Doping Agency. For some of the medications that are in the monitoring program may end up getting into the prohibited list. So it is in the monitoring program. That's what is being shown in the next slide. It's in the monitoring list. Next. This is a supplement. What do you think about it? Prohibited or not? Unfortunately, supplements, because they are not regulated like normal pharmaceuticals, they are not really, we can't say whether it's prohibited or not, because it depends on what is there. So it's a very tricky situation. Many of athletes have been doped through supplements. In fact, this one that I have put here, there is an athlete who saw another athlete in I think they were Commonwealth or somewhere, using from another country, I think from Australia or somewhere. And then when they came back to Kenya, they saw the same thing on the shelves in one of the malls. And then they bought it. And then they tested positive for, I think, one of the anabolic steroids, very sadly. Because these supplements may not be regulated strictly. What it contains in Australia may not be what it contains in Kenya. So they are very tricky situations. There are certain supplements that may be controlled very well, but it's a tricky situation. Generally, as ADAC, we usually advise athletes against the use of supplements, because whatever they get from supplements, they can get from normal nutrition or normal nutrition and food. Very tricky. Next. The first one, which one is the first one? The first one is bangi, Prohibited or not? Somebody is saying Wajakoya. So it is prohibited under cannabinoids. Which one is the next? Can you see very well from the back? Miraa, prohibited or not? Under what? Stimulants. There is a certain story about that miraa. One of our athletes was sanctioned and chased out of Olympics Village in Athens. I think it was 2004 because of using miraa. That time the list was very new. I think, Ken, it was maybe a year or so. The prohibited list had just come out. So people were not very conversant with it. So there is a story, I'm not very sure, that the athlete was eating miraa in the camp. Even when they were flying to Athens, inside the plane, he was still taking miraa without knowing it was prohibited. So prohibited. Next. So miraa and cannabinoids, that is what's there. I can't see well. Cannabis. Next. Yeah, miraa is a caffeine and stimulants. Next. And this should be the last one because of I can see some people are not looking at me very well because I'm standing between you and the lunch. But I'm hoping you are not. This is not part of the menu for lunch. Is it prohibited or not? It's not. Why would it not be prohibited? Does it enhance performance? Of course, I would rather compete with a drunk person, so it does the opposite. But does it violate the spirit of sport? Does it cause harm to athletes? So it should be prohibited. Strangely, it is not. I don't know why. It used to be there before, but it was removed from the list. Maybe because it does the opposite of enhancing performance. So my last slide, is just to remind you that TUEs enable athletes with legitimate medical conditions to continue to take their medications without violating anti-doping rules. And also to remind you that the criteria for granting is very strict. I know there have been rumors there before about, especially in developed countries, that some may be given through TUEs authority to use unfairly. But I think the standards are very strict. I think those are unfounded rumors. The process is designed to ensure fair play with medical necessity. And the complete, lastly now, is just to call to you as pharmaceutical experts, because you remember what Ken said, we are in a very precarious situation as a country, and you are extremely important stakeholders in the fight. You are part of what is extremely important, because most of these doped substances are obtained from pharmacies and chemists where you are. So if we play our role very well, we can actually, we will be a very important factor in our country getting out of this. And a part of what we are requesting you to do is to be extremely vigilant and attention to details, especially when we are dispensing medications. Find out if what you are dispensing medications to, are they athletes? And then if they are, is that a prohibited substance that they are being dispensed? If it is it necessary? So that you advise them on what we talked about, therapeutic use exemption. So that is one of what we are requesting you. Secondly is if you can be advising some of these athletes that you meet. Some of them may be friends or acquaintances, and others are your clients. If you can advise them that there is a process in case they need a therapeutic use exemption, there is a process that can be done. so that we are able to save our athletes from this. As I said, our applications for therapeutic use are extremely low. At one time, I was lucky to be a team doctor for one of our teams to international competition somewhere, and I was talking to doctors from those developed countries. Most of them were telling me 15-20% of the athletes are asthmatics. They are taking inhalers. In my team that time, I didn't have any of my athletes who were asthmatics. Why? Partly because probably most of them are not aware about some of these avenues that they can get help from, but also very important because also in our setup, especially developing countries, some of these asthmatics are not managed well, so they end up avoiding sports and not doing well in sports. That could be also a factor. But also the fact of therapeutic use exemption is, I think, is one of the main factors that we can play a role in. I think we also need to talk to our athletes about supplements, extremely important. We ask you particularly to discourage our athletes from supplements because many of them are getting caught from use of supplements. And then lastly, integrity, extremely important. As pharmaceutical practitioners, a few of us, very few of us, not many, majority of us are doing a perfect job, have integrity. There are a few of us who are aiding athletes in doping. We want to discourage any who may be tempted to go that way, not to do that. So otherwise, I welcome you to partner with us so that we can save our country from this monster. Thank you so much. Ken.
Okay. Thank you, Daktari. Just hold because I don't want us to go far. We had a moment for Q&A, but please, if you can channel those questions to your organizing secretary, they can be channeled to us and we can be able to respond. Also, Daktari will still be around here, so if you can be able to have a chat with him, we are still welcome. And then I was also asked to say, what is spirit of sport? The reason we are doing all this is to ensure that by the time we are presenting a team to the field, 11 versus 11, it's not 11 versus 11 enhanced. We want fairness. When we are starting at the start line, we want the 8 guys doing the final to be all clean. And we can only do that when we have all stakeholders on board. It doesn't make us so proud that we are catching many. That is not what really entices us or makes us happy. Our joy is when we see Kenyans out there are competing and that win is termed as credible. You know, there's a guy who ran a sub-2 marathon. The guy who ran a marathon with less than 2 hours, isn't it? Has the record been ratified? It can't be ratified until they have been tested and analyzed to show that it was clean. That is how far we have gone as a country, that our performances are not counted as credible. So that is why we're asking you, your critical stakeholders, very important for us as an agency. I'm happy that we have met some of you in your branches, but we are still asking for those who have areas in their branches and would want us to have this discussion. Please invite us. If you have your webinars, Daktari might spare a bit of his time to be able to engage with you. And finally, I've shared with the organizing sec the 2026 prohibited list. Please have a look at it. And there's something Daktari did not mention, but allow me to mention it. If you go to Global DRO on your phone, Global DRO. You can write it there. That's the one actually I told you to remind me, but you all forgot. Global DRO is a drug referencing online. You can check whether that drug is prohibited by WADA. You find it whether it's prohibited in competition or out of competition. It's an online thing, you can be able to manage it. And I want you to start practicing just when you get to your workplace. Look around. The way Daktari took the program, looked at what is good for athlete, which is not good for the athlete. Even you start practicing start doing it, and when you do that, you'll be able to dispense your drugs to the right people in the right manner. And if they need a TUE, daktari and his team, they are ready to support our athletes. Asanteni sana.
On Global DRO, when you get into the Global DRO website, you'll see a list of countries because it's a partnership of those developed countries. You see UK, US, Canada, and many others. So you can click, I think, generally we are closer to UK. Among the developed countries, they were colonizers. We have academic mannerisms of the UK. So you can click UK. And then after that, they will ask you what you are, whether you are an athlete or not. You can click as a medical professional. When you go that way, you'll see now somewhere where they will ask you to type the medication that you are searching. And then you accept the conditions. And that way, any medication, you'll be able to search from there. Thank you. Is there any burning questions? Any burning question?
Just one.
My question to you is that you are able to reach the farm tech, but when you go to the market, you'll find most pharmacies belong to quacks. Yes, as we can be able to follow whatever you have taught us, but how do you reach to those quacks? Because now, when customers go to buy, sometimes they don't know the licensed, the non-licensed pharmacists. They just think all of us are doctors. But even if we hang that license there, sometimes farmers and poisons bond is not able to reach out of those quacks. You find even most towns, quacks are many than the registered farm techs. How will you be able to control that?
Thank you. I think more administrative, so I let Ken answer.
Yes, I know we have been working with PBB to be able to crack down on some pharmacists that are out there masquerading as people who are practicing. And you can see even in the act, people who don't have licenses. Even if you revoke their licenses, what do? There's one who ran away from us from E10, and once we closed that facility down, went to Kapsabet and opened another facility. And I don't know, Doctor, when we zeroed in on this one, he broke the ceiling, akaruka juu ya mabati na akahepa. So these are the realities that we are facing. And we are trying to use all the government machinery that we can be able to hold on. So we work with customs, there's a cashment of triamcinolone, a huge cashment that we managed to get at JKIA. Because nowadays people have become very smart. They are not now importing the narcotics. They will be caught. Pharmaceutical products that are used for doping, nobody will check them. Nobody will ask them. So we managed to get a huge consignment at JKIA. So what we are doing is trying to work with other government agencies, immigrations, customs, and all other bodies that can help us. Because as you're saying, we have a problem that we are trying to solve. But there are those procedures that we are making to ensure that we curb the area. And the other aspect we would really want you to do, also you can also become our informant. You can share some of this information with us. Of course, we won't tell you that you're the one who gave us this information. We have a channel where you can report anonymously, and then the rest, unatuachia sisi, DCI, and NIS to be able to do our work. But if you give us a hint, we might be able to crack down everyone who is operating illegally in this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken, and the ADAC team. Let's appreciate them for that wonderful presentation. And surely, as KPA, we are looking forward to give them an opportunity to also partner with us and the conversation continue. If you missed all that 1 hour presentation, the key thing to remember, kindly be vigilant when you are offering those medications to our clients. Again, have time and ask them what they are using medications for and also their profession. That one will enhance the guidance that you'll be giving them. Then on the supplements, If he's an athlete, kindly let's avoid, unless otherwise. Then integrity. Integrity. Kindly don't do stupid thing that may end up ruining our profession. But there was a disclaimer, and for that presentation, there was a disclaimer. There were brands of medicines which were displayed here. And as KPA and on behalf of ADAC, we have nothing against those brands. What we are saying are some of their contents are prohibited. Once again, let's appreciate the ADAC team. Thank you. We are about to break for lunch, but I'm just requesting you give me a maximum of 2 minutes. We'll be out. Allow me to welcome the Secretary of KPA Nairobi branch for just a brief exercise.
Thank you so much, Calvin. I am standing between you and your lunch. And therefore, I do not intend to take any more of your minutes. Our KPA Nairobi branch from time to time is blessed to always have guests whenever we hold such conferences, such meetings. And these guests normally come from various branches to come and visit with us, but also to see whatever we are doing. And therefore, I want to request any member of KPA, including an official of KPA from any other branch other than Nairobi branch, to come forward to say hello to us. Anyone? All right. Karibuni, karibuni. These are friends of KPA Nairobi, and they come visiting from time to time to be with us. Very fast, I would want to just they introduce themselves. Is there anyone we are leaving out? Yesterday we had one leader from Rift Valley. She did not get an opportunity. She is called Jacinta Kasimu. She is the treasurer, Rift Valley, and she said hello. Now, I'll give you a few minutes to just say hi to our members. Tuanze wapi huku?
Good afternoon, KPA members. Watu wa Nairobi, Jambo. Mko salama? My name is Oscar Mutiso. I come from Upper Eastern, particularly Meru. I'm the branch secretary, KPA Upper Eastern, and I'm honored this afternoon to be with you, to join you this day. It's a great day that we usually look forward to joining you as a branch, at least to learn a thing, at least to be sure that as a professional body, we are moving in the right direction. I'm happy at least today, from where I come from, I'm realizing one of the one of the products that I could have brought to you, it's prohibited. You understand, eh? Yeah, I come from an area which is rich in cat. I thought I could have brought one kidogo, but sasa tumeambiwa iko prohibited. So next time I'll bring you maybe something else. Eh? So much greetings from Upper Eastern. Our members are aware that we are visiting today, and we are all brothers and sisters, colleagues. And my one word for each and every KPA member is to ensure that we hold our hands together, we work together, fight together, win together. Is that okay? We have a lot to go as a profession. We have a journey to work together. We have much to win together. So the only thing that can make us achieve all this is to stay united. Thank you. Asanteni.
Thank you, my brother. Good afternoon. Hamjambo. Nashukuru sana. Kwa majina naitwa Victor Oso, ni branch Secretary, Rift Valley. My colleague Jacinta was here yesterday. So that is an indication that we are committed to working with you as a branch. I am a mentee of this good friend of mine, Cletus. And through that, there are so many things that we usually pick from Nairobi branch that we go and implement to improve. But I'll echo something very, very important that my brother has said: unity of purpose. And I thank you for your patience, and I continue encouraging us tushikiliane, kwa sababu mambo ni mengi na mambo ni magumu. Na umeona the way transport has been, walishikana pamoja and things changed. But if we are fragmented, then pushing policy becomes a challenge. I'm so keen, and I thank God for the grace of working closely with him and NEC in the policy drive, because we'd want some of the things that we keep complaining about to change. So please, members, continue holding us. I look forward to seeing you in Mombasa. Let's go and enjoy, but also let's go and push our agenda as members of KPA. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Janice Kendi. I'm the chair of Pakistan, Meru. Kindly let's continue supporting the association. Thank you so much.
Nairobi hoye. With all the due respect, I'm honored to be here. I'm glad I'm here in this branch. We call it the branch. There's so much, like our Honorable SG has said. There's so much to learn from this branch. And we come here not just to read, to learn what we are learning today, but to benchmark on what Nairobi is doing so that we can be able to replicate. So Nairobi people, congrats, you're doing good. But also, as my colleagues have said, we need to realize ourselves. Tushaisikia ile story ya ile simba ambayo ilikuwa pamoja na kondoo ama ilikuwa nini. The moment it realized what it is, things changed. We need to realize who we are. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Kabla muende, tuwapigie makofi vizuri. Thank you so much. Now, I want to do a small civic education. When you see all these leaders here, they come from branches. And we have 11 branches in KPA. KPA Nairobi branch is one of those branches. Each branch is led by 6 elected officials. They are just part of those 6 elected officials. So in total, that becomes 66 elected officials in the entire KPA 11 branches. And then at the national office, we call it the National Executive Council. We have 6 elected officials. And then we have the Board of Trustees. If we decided today, members decided that now we dissolve KPA and everybody goes home, then the assets that belong to KPA remain with the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees has got non-elected members. There are 2, but then there are other who is also the KPA lawyer, making 3rd and another 4th. So in total, all these officials put together form 74 officials in KPA. All these people, they join together in one National Assembly. So KPA has got its National Assembly. That National Assembly is called the Central Council. So recently, all these National Council members elected a speaker. So they are led by a speaker. That's why I was saying it's a National Assembly of KPA. And the speaker who was elected was none other than yours truly speaking to you. Thank you. So I'm proud as the speaker that thank you for electing me as your speaker, but also thank you for visiting my branch. And I had to inform the members here that yes, I have to thank you very much for having elected me as a speaker. Asanteni sana kwa kukuja. Thank you so much. Tuwapigie makofi tafadhali. I want to hand it over to Calvin for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, KPA Central Council. Tumpige makofi. Okay, if you look at your program, I believe all of us, we have the program. If you look at the program, after the ADAC presentation, we should be breaking for lunch. Then thereafter, there are something written raffles. So raffles means there are prizes to be won. And with me, I have 100 prizes. From TV set, sound bars, etc. Cash. I'm just preparing you for the next session. So my request, tukubaliane, for how long are we going to break for lunch? Pardon? Okay, let's do 1 hour. Right now it's 2:30. So 3:30, let's all be here so that we celebrate, we see the gifts that each one of us shall win today. Sawa sawa? Yeah. I request Herin to pray for us.